Hi, good morning again, everybody, and thank you again for joining us today. Our webinar will begin here shortly. The webinar today is titled OVC Tribal Victim Services Set-Aside Program, Fiscal Year 2021 New Grantee Orientation, presented by the Office for Victims of Crime. My name is Kevin Poliamtua, and I will be your moderator for today. Our goal today is to equip you with the knowledge and resources that are necessary so that you may successfully manage your new OVC Tribal Victim Services Set-Aside Grant Award. This orientation webinar will provide the following: an overview of OVC and the TVSSA program, grant roles and responsibilities, including reporting requirements, award conditions, training and technical assistance, and additional resources. Let's begin today with our first poll question. The question is, did you receive OVC funding prior to 2021? All right, so it looks like 70% of you have received OVC funding prior to 2021, and 10% of you are no, and 20% of you are not sure. So with that, I will hand it off to our presenters from the Office for Victims of Crime, Bonnie Robertson, Mary Atlas Terry, and Lori Gardner. Bonnie, the time is now yours.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Hello, everyone. My name is Barbara, also known as Bonnie Robertson, and I am currently serving as the Acting Associate Director of the Tribal Division at OVC. On behalf of OVC Director Chris Rose and Tribal Division Deputy Director Catherine Dark-Schmidt, I'd like to welcome you to this new grantee orientation. While you received your awards a few months ago, I would like to say congratulations on your awards. Now today, we do want to take note that all of your awards are very different. And so this presentation is aiming to focus in on a broad overview of information that's applicable to everyone. We'll have a more in-depth orientation at the Indian Nations Conference in December, so be sure to watch for more information that will be coming your way about that. And please note that we will pause to do a Q&A during the presentation, and also at the end. And you can also submit your questions in the Q&A box. If there's any time constraints and we don't get to your questions today, or if your question is unique to your particular award, please reach out to your assigned OVC grant manager. And if you don't know who that is, you can find their name in the Just Grants system. So at this point, I'd like to introduce my fellow presenters, Mary Atlas Terry and Lori Gardner, and you'll see a little bit more of them as we move along in the presentation. The Office for Victims of Crime administers the Crime Victims Fund, which is financed by fines and penalties paid by convicted federal offenders and not from tax dollars. OVC channels that money towards victim compensation and assistance throughout the United States, which raises awareness about victims' issues, promotes compliance with victims' rights laws, and provides training and technical assistance and publications and products to victim assistance professionals. Through the Crime Victims Fund, OVC programs support victims in tribal communities, state compensation and assistance programs, training and technical assistance and information resources, victims of international terrorism and mass violence at home and abroad, coordination with federal agencies for the provision of victim services, assisting victims of human trafficking, and also the National Scope Demonstration and Community-Based Victim Services projects. All of the funding that OVC's Tribal Division distributes is considered discretionary funding, meaning that we make most of the awards on a competitive basis. There are, however, some exceptions, which include the Tribal Victim Services Set-Aside. Some of OVC's tribal-specific competitive awards include the Coordinated Tribal Assistance Solicitation, also known as CTAS, Purpose Area 6 Children's Justice Act, the Developing Future Victim Specialist in American, Indian, and Native Alaska Communities program, the Project Beacon, Increasing Services for Urban American Indian and Alaska Native Victims of Sex Trafficking, and the Microgrant Initiative. These programs are not the only OVC grant programs to which tribes are eligible to apply. Federally recognized tribes are typically eligible to apply for any discretionary grant programs that are administered by OVC's Discretionary Program Division and OVC's Human Trafficking Division. OVC's Tribal Division tends to manage awards that tribes receive from discretionary grant programs that are also administered through other OVC divisions. The Tribal Victim Services Set-Aside Formula Grant Program supports the provision of services to crime victims in American Indian and Alaska Native communities through an administrative formula program funded through a set-aside designated by law from the Crime Victims Fund. The program is not competitive and is open to any federally recognized tribal government applying either individually or as in consortia, and Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act regions, regional corporations, or their designees. The goal of this program is to provide support to tribal communities to improve services for victims of crime through activities such as community needs assessment, strategic planning, victim service program development and implementation, victim service program expansion, community outreach and education, purchasing and procuring tangible items related to victim services, and other activities needed to address the needs of a wide variety of crime victims in tribal communities. Funding under the tribal set-aside may be used for a wide range of programs, activities, and equipment and supplies to develop, enhance, sustain, or procure victim services. Some key questions to ask yourself when determining if a cost is allowable include, is this cost or activity related to supporting victims of crime? How is it related to the project? And how is it helping victims of crime? Please remember that funds can only be spent on costs that are covered by a specific line item in the approved budget. In fiscal year 2021, OVC awarded $90,321,186 to 142 tribal programs. The majority of these awards started on January 1st, 2022. Tribes have the option of choosing a project period of up to 60 months or 5 years. Most start dates for these projects were January 1st, 2022, although some project periods began on October 1st, 2021. OVC grant managers serve as your main point of contact, not only for your award, but for your programmatic and your fiscal aspects of your award as well. Grant managers monitor grantees for compliance for various programmatic, administrative, and fiscal requirements, and with the grantees' approved goals and objectives. We perform desk reviews, enhanced desk reviews, and site visits, which we will be talking about a little bit more later on in the webinar. We approve progress reports and just grants. Grant managers also approve grant award modifications. One of our most important roles is to support you, the grantees, in the implementation of your project so that victims receive the services they need and deserve. We can help problem solve. We can help you answer questions and refer you to different resources and connect you with TTA providers when needed. So in addition to the three presenters that for today's webinar that I introduced to you earlier, Kimberly Woodard and Jessica Andrew, who are pictured here, will be assisting us with the Q&A parts of the presentation. In addition to Kimberly and Jessica, here are the rest of our current tribal division grant managers. And additionally, Ann Hamilton and Victoria Jolikar are assigned to manage tribal TVSSA awards, but they are not part of the tribal division. They work in other divisions. So what's the role of the grantee? What's your role in all of this? Your role includes reviewing the award conditions on the award document and determining that your organization needs to, what your organization needs to do to be in compliance with them. We'll be going over the specific award conditions later on in this presentation. You're responsible to manage the project according to the requirements, standards, and guidance contained in the grant terms and conditions, including the Office of Justice Programs Financial Guide, which is provided in the award package, and the award special conditions. You're required to submit quarterly financial status reports in accordance with the OJP Financial Guide and submit programmatic progress reports in accordance with the frequency established in the special conditions of the award document. There will be a webinar specifically about performance reporting in the PMT in June. You're responsible to request approval for modifications to your award as defined in the financial guide. And you're responsible to complete all deliverables as stated in your application or in the solicitation or in a special condition. So I'm going to turn it back over to Kevin for another poll question.
So now we have our second poll question here. And the question is, what is your most preferred method of communication with your grant manager? Is that through email, phone call, or WebEx video? And the results here show that 81% of you prefer communication via email, 10% through phone, and 9% through video.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kevin. And that is important information for us as grant managers to know to what is your preferred mode of communication. So thankful. That was very, 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 thank you. It was very helpful. Now we're going to spend some time highlighting some of the key award conditions that are attached to your grant award agreement. The award conditions are terms and conditions that are included with your award. Award conditions may include additional requirements covering areas such as programmatic and financial reporting, prohibited uses of federal funds, consultant rates, changes in key personnel, and proper disposition of program income. Some award conditions may be based on the program or on the nature of the award itself. Regardless of the program office of the award, there are several award conditions that you will be on any OJP award. And it's important for you to know what award conditions have been placed on your award, especially those that require action on your part to remove a financial withholding of your funds. The award package includes the award letter, project and financial information, and award conditions. The award letter serves as the official document binding the recipient and OJP to the grant agreement. The award package includes the name of the recipient, project title, award period, budget period, type of federal funds, awards or cooperative agreements, amount of federal funds, award number, and award conditions that must be met during the award period. All Tribal Victim Services set-aside budgets for fiscal year 2021 were change requested back to you because there was an increase in your award amounts. If your budget is not already approved, you will need to contact your OVC grant manager to discuss the changes that you need to make before you resubmit. Then once you resubmit those changes, you'll do so in Just Grants. The award budgets were changed, requested back to you in the form of a grant adjustment modification, grant award, a GAM. I'm still speaking old GMS language. They were submitted to you back from OCFO via a GAM. So you may want to look in your boxes to see if there's anything there if you have not received it yet or not aware of it. Please note that those that have not onboarded folks yet in Just Grants need to do so as soon as possible, because OCFO cannot change requests, the budget back to you for revision, until all of your roles are fully onboarded in Just Grants, and that will allow you to accept the award. Award conditions. Award conditions are your terms and conditions. We hear that term a lot, terms and conditions. Their requirements of all award recipients, and grantees will view and accept all award conditions as part of your funded award package when accepting an award. The compliance status of an award condition and any associated withholding amounts can be viewed in the funded award. There are two ways you can view your award conditions in Just Grants. You can view your award conditions by clicking on the award conditions caret under your award package. You can also view the award conditions by selecting the award conditions tab to the right of the award package. Viewing the award conditions under this tab will allow you to see if the award is in compliance or if there is an amount of the award that's being withheld.
Thanks, Bonnie. Hi, I'm Mary Atlas Terry. I'm one of the grant managers here at OVC in the Tribal Division. I'm so happy to be with you. So Bonnie was describing that there, as you've probably seen, there are many special conditions on your grant awards. And while all of them are really important, because of the time that we have today, we're just going to be highlighting in the next few slides a few of them. We've selected some that are either newer special conditions to OVC, ones that impact your day-to-day work, or special conditions that require follow-up with your grant manager. So on this slide, you see two major points. One is a reference to 2 CFR Part 200, Uniform Administrative Requirements. And you see a link to the DOJ Grants Financial Guide. And these are things that you would use every day in the administration of your OVC grant. There are a number of laws and federal regulations that guide the administration and management of federal awards. And you'll see these citations throughout your award special conditions. If you're not already familiar with 2 CFR Part 200, also known as Uniform Administrative Requirements, you'll soon learn all about this as you manage your new OVC grant, get used to the special conditions, and click through a lot of the resources that we have available to grant award administrators and financial managers of your OVC grant. The Uniform Administrative Requirements consolidated and updated many federal regulations in an effort to provide consistency across federal agencies. So many of the rules that you see for your OVC grant, you'll also recognize them as being relevant for grants you might have through other federal agencies. So they may be pretty familiar to you already. One of the special conditions states that the grantees are required to comply with the DOJ Financial Guide. The newly updated DOJ Financial Guide is available online, and should be your first source when you have a financial related question. You can find most answers to your routine questions inside the financial guide. For example, the financial guide covers what your financial accounting system should include, how to access and track grant payments, when to make adjustments to awards, what activities require prior approval, reporting requirements. You find a wealth of information. And many times in many sections of the Grantee financial guide, you will find a link to CFR Part 200 that relates to that specific issue. So please tag this link as one of your favorites and bookmark it, and just please become familiar with this resource. Okay, so another special condition is related to the required financial management and grant administration training. The grant award administrator noted in Just Grants and all financial managers noted in Just Grants for this award and any DOJ award the special condition reads that they must have successfully completed the DOJ financial management training within 120 days after the date that the grantee accepted the award. Or for your cohort of grantees, for fiscal year 21 grantees, you can demonstrate that you completed the training sometime after January 1st, 2019, and that will demonstrate that you satisfied this award condition. In the event during the life of the grant, if either the grant award administrator or the financial manager assigned to this award, your new award in Just Grants changes, that new grant award administrator or financial manager must take the training within 120 days of being assigned to this new role. If you haven't done so already, please email your training certificate to your OVC grant manager so they can upload your certificate into Just Grants and demonstrate that you met the requirement of the award condition. On this slide, you'll see a link to the online DOJ financial grant management training. It's online, it's free of charge, and it includes several modules that'll really help you with the administration of this grant. And at the end of the training, it provides a certificate that you completed the training. And that's the certificate that you would send to your OVC grant manager. And please note that you should anticipate that if we go past 120 days and for a prolonged period of time, you do not complete the grant management training, the OVC can freeze the funds on your award until you are able to take the training. On your special conditions, there are conditions related to the approval of products. Some of you indicated in your proposal that you were going to develop certain products during the course of your grant. Grantees are required to submit certain products for OVC approval, and this includes any training curricula, training materials such as PowerPoints, new publications, reports that you're planning to release to the community, or other materials that you said that you would develop in your grant proposal. These are things that you must submit to your OVC grant manager for review and approval. we generally are asking for, if possible, at least 60 days to review these products before you release them to the community. So if your grant includes any of these types of projects or products that you want to release, please consult with your OVC grant manager to review, what the plan is for the production and what the review will be looking like. Most cases, the OVC grant manager will review the product, but we might enlist the help of a TTA provider, a technical assistance provider, who might be able to provide us some additional feedback for you. And I just want to say that minor deliverables, such as, one pagers or something very minor that you need to release quickly, those things don't require OVC grant manager approval. But just keep in touch with your grant manager to discuss what's needed. The other part of the approval of products special conditions provides you with this particular language that you would put on things like PowerPoints or formal reports or publications or brochure. It's just basically saying that the product, presentation or publication, whatever, was produced by you under the OVC grant, and you would indicate the grant award under an award from the Office for Victims of Crime, and that what's presented are basically your findings and conclusions and not necessarily those of the Department of Justice. But anyway, this is the language that should be on products, and the language is located in your special conditions list. Confidentiality policies and procedures. The special condition states that you must have written policies and procedures documenting how you will maintain confidentiality of victims' names, addresses, telephone numbers, and other identifying information, as well as you must have procedures for information sharing among partners. The grantees must maintain these policies and procedures on their own records, and you do not need to submit them to OVC for review and approval. However, if we were doing an in-depth monitoring and we asked for your confidentiality policies just to see that you're meeting this special condition, we would expect that you would have them and could provide them to us. What we do ask for you to do and send to the grant manager as soon as possible is provide a signed written certification that your data privacy and sharing protocols comport with federal laws, tribal laws, court policies, and other laws that apply to confidentiality and privacy rights applicable to your program. So you need to submit a signed statement saying that your protocols and policies comport with the appropriate regulations. And you just send that certification or statement by email to your grant manager. And they will upload it into Just Grants and indicate that this requirement has been met. I just want to make a note that, should you need assistance with developing or enhancing a confidentiality policy or procedure, please let your grant manager know, because we may be able to connect you with technical assistance on this issue. It's just so important, and it's just such a core requirement of our OVC grant services. So thank you for taking the time and paying attention to this. Another special condition is the requirement to report actual or imminent breaches of personally identifiable information, PII. So the recipient and any of your subgrantees, if you have them, must have written procedures in place to respond in an event of an actual or imminent breach of information. The recipient's breach procedures must include a requirement to report the actual or imminent breach of PII to an OJP program manager no later than 24 hours after the occurrence of the actual breach or detection of an imminent breach. So that's something that you need to have in your policies and procedures, is what would happen if there's been a breach of personally identified information. There are special conditions on your awards related to indirect costs, particularly if you have indirect costs noted in your budget. Indirect cost may be charged to an award only if the recipient has a current federally approved indirect cost rate agreement that has not expired, or the grantee may be eligible to use the de minimis indirect cost rate described in the Part 200 Uniform Requirements. Some grantees have a special condition on your award that's holding back access to funds for indirect costs. And if that is the case, you cannot obligate, expend, or draw down any award funds for indirect costs until a current federally approved indirect cost rate agreement is submitted, or you've followed up to demonstrate that you're eligible for the de minimis rate. Please email a copy of your indirect cost rate agreement to your assigned grant manager if you have not already done so. And during the life of the award, if your indirect cost rate agreement changes, whether it increases or decreases, please know that you'll need to plan to submit a revised budget and submit a budget modification GAM showing how that new indirect cost rate will be calculated and charged to your award. Some grantees have a special condition on your award that is holding back a portion of funds, or maybe even the whole award, if in some situations, for a specific amount of funding because OVC is requesting an updated program narrative, a program strategy, or an updated budget. And an example of this might be where, upon review of your original application, the OVC grant manager identified a particular cost that was not allowable, or maybe there was a particular objective or strategy that you were planning to use that didn't seem to be in alignment with the Tribal Victim Service Set-Aside Program activities. And so in those cases, your grant manager is probably expecting you to revise something in your application documents. So if you look at your grant in Just Grants and you scroll down the special conditions and you see one where you've got a hold on grant funds for a revised program narrative, if you haven't talked to your grant manager already about what's needed, please reach out to your grant manager for more information about what revisions are really needed. Sometimes it's just a revised narrative, sometimes it's a revised budget, sometimes it's both. So thank you for following up on this and getting this straightened out on your award. Okay, there are special conditions on the grant that signal when prior approval is needed. Prior approval from OVC is needed. Some costs require written approval as specified in 2 CFR Part 200, and it's also noted in the DOJ Grants Financial Guide in Chapter 3.6. One example is related to compensation for consultant services. These are individual consultant services that DOJ has placed a cap on the maximum allowable rate at $81.25 per hour or $650 per day for an 8-hour day. Compensation for individual consultant services, and this would be, for an example, if you want to hire an individual trainer to come out to train on something, or if you want to hire an evaluation consultant, something like that. The services need to be reasonable and consistent with that paid for similar services in the marketplace. The current rate for each is $650 per day or $81.25 per hour. When the rate exceeds the limit for an 8-hour day, or a written prior approval is required from the grant making component. Prior approval requests require justification for why you need to exceed that $81.25 per hour. This is the kind of thing that would probably be documented in a programmatic cost GAM or something like that. Some kind of GAM in the system may be required. Another example of prior approval would be something related to sole source procurements in excess of $250,000. These must receive prior approval before entering into the contract. And something like this should only be used as last resort. Another example would be of costs that need prior approval would be computing devices, software, or information technology systems. These are things that would possibly be noted in your budget under equipment category and might be, something over $5,000 or more. These require written prior approval. These are not things that would generally be categorized as a supply item. It's more the larger ticket items that you may need to follow up with your grant manager to see if prior approval is needed and how to document that. Again, for all of these types of things, please talk with your grant manager just to see how this should be documented in Just Grants. Okay, now we're going to be talking about reporting requirements. Okay, many of you are not new to the OVC grants, but some of you are. And for all of you, you know that it's challenging sometimes to figure out how and where do I submit my reports, my performance data and reports. And unfortunately, I need to remind you that we still have two different systems, and the two different systems do not talk to each other. We have the performance measurement tool, which has been in existence for quite a few years now, where individual performance measurement data is entered. And we have the newer Just Grants system, where the reports, semi-annual reports, are submitted to OVC. The Just Grants system is new, and eventually, I believe, we hope to build out the Just Grants system to include performance measurement so that eventually there will no longer be two different systems. But for right now, we still have a two database process, the PMT and Just Grants. So basically your performance, your data is entered on a quarterly basis into the performance measurement tool. After the grantee has entered 2 quarters of data, you can generate a semi-annual PMT report that merges the 2 quarters together into a 6-month report. And the good thing about the PMT is the grant award administrator could enter the data, but it could also be a program person. So it could be a program director, it could be an advocate, whoever is assigned in your program to enter performance data into a system like this. There's a number of people who could enter that data into the performance measurement tool for you. So that's a good thing. And then 2 times a year, in January and July of every year, you would go into Just Grants and you would submit the PMT. You would go into the performance report that's due for that semi-annual period, and you would basically attach the PMT report that you generated out of the PMT, that semi-annual report. You basically just attach or upload that PDF file into Just Grants and hit submit. It's important to know that the only person that can submit the semi-annual report in Just Grants is the grant award administrator who's assigned. So this is a chart that I'm hoping will help you see when things are due. This slide shows you the due dates for both the quarterly reports into the PMT and the semi-annual reports that go into Just Grants. The left side of the table shows the due dates for the quarterly reports that you must complete into the PMT, and that's April 30th, July 30th, or by April 30th, by July 30th, October 30th, and January 30th of every year. So 4 times a year, you would enter data into the PMT. Twice a year, around July 30th and January 30th, not only do you enter performance data, numeric information into the PMT, but you'll be prompted to answer narrative questions about the status of your goals and objectives for that particular 6-month period, and anything else that you want to share with us that helps us see all the good work that you're doing over the past 6 months on this particular grant. The second half of this right side of the report shows that this slide shows when July 30th and January 30th, you take that PMT report and you upload it into Just Grants. It's important to note that if the semi-annual reports are not submitted by the due dates, the funds will automatically be frozen. OVC grant managers have no control over that, about the freezing of funds. It's just something that happens in Just Grants automatically. The other thing to note is that for many of you, you may have spent the last few months since January 1st working on budget revisions, and you may not have started your project yet. So even if there's been no activity on your award because the funds haven't been released, for example, please go into both systems, the PMT first, and then Just Grants, and enter 0 into the performance measurement boxes, just so that both systems can see that you actually submitted your report on time. Because I say this because Just Grants will hold back funds for an overdue or delinquent report, even if that report is supposed to say 0. So please plan, even if you haven't started your project yet, to go in and just look at the reporting requirements, look at the PMT and Just Grants, and make sure you've submitted your last report. For most of you, it would be the report that was January 1st through March 31st, which was due April 30th in the PMT. Thankfully, the PMT Help Desk will be holding an online webinar training on June 8th on how to report data into the PMT. There will be a link to register. It will probably be sent out to all of the current grant award administrators. So if you are a grant award administrator and you do not enter data into the PMT, please forward it to that person who does. The link to register will be posted on OVC's news and events page. And just so you have it, all of our different webinars are going to be posted on a web page. It's the OVC web, which is www.ovc.gov/events. That's where everything is posted. Well, because we have two different systems, we have two different help desks. So if you get hung up with the PMT, or if you need help with logging into the PMT, if you want a one-on-one coaching session to understand what questions and fields are in the PMT to help you plan on your data collection, you can reach out to the PMT help desk and get some one-to-one coaching and quick answers to easy questions. So please contact the OVC PMT help desk when you need them. And then if you are struggling to submit your progress report in Just Grants or your performance report into Just Grants, you would then call the Just Grants support desk. And I want to make a note here that one of the handouts that you're going to be receiving from OVC after this webinar is what might be called a tribal division reference sheet, or it might be titled Grant Manager Info and Help Desk Tip Sheet, and it has all of the links and all of the help desk information that you need to navigate through these systems. So be on the lookout for that tip sheet. Okay, this slide is about your quarterly federal financial report, or the FFR, also known as the SF425. And this is for the deadlines for your financial manager to submit the quarterly FFRs. The quarterly FFR must be submitted in Just Grants no later than 30 days after the last day of each quarter. So there you see the deadlines are January 30th, April 30th, which just passed, July 30th, and October 30th of each year. The SF425, or the FFR, it must show the actual funds that have been spent, the expenditures, cumulatively over the life of the award. The FFR should also note any unliquidated obligations that were incurred during that report period. These are bills that have been received but have not yet been paid. Please check out the DOJ Financial Guide because it provides more detail on how to complete the FFR and includes important tips for your reference. OVC grant managers do not have control over Just Grants. And so if the reporting deadline passes, and your report has not been received, it automatically triggers a hold on your grant funds. That means that I think it's triggered like the day after it's due. And again, if you are still working on revising your budget or your program narrative and you have not started grant activities, you still must submit a report by the due date that shows 0 expenditures, because Just Grants is expecting some report to be submitted even if it's 0 expenditures. And there will be a final financial report due within 90 days of the end date of the award. Now we're going to be talking about a few additional details, some important things to remember in managing your award. One is about the importance of maintaining documents for your official grant file. It's important to have all of the relevant documents organized in one place. The following documents must be available either electronically or as hard copy for a monitoring visit. We need the signed award document. You should be keeping access to progress reports and financial reports. You should have a copy of your approved application, including your budget documents, correspondence with your grant manager, and copies of any approved GAMs. It's just important for these documents to be available to the person who's noted as the grant award administrator and the financial manager on the award. But in many cases, particularly related to the special conditions and the budget and the program narrative, your programmatic POCs, like, the directors and managers of your OVC grant programs, the people who are really responsible for making sure that this program meets all the requirements, they should also have copies of all of the important documents related to this award so that they can know what's happening and what's going on and what they have approval to do. This screen might be very familiar to you. This is the external screen and the login screen for the Just Grants system. This is the grants management system that will be used throughout the life cycle of your award to submit progress reports, financial reports, and make all adjustments to your award. We will not be providing a tutorial on how to use Just Grants in today's webinar, but there are many resources to help you navigate Just Grants. Grantees are encouraged to become familiar with the Just Grants user support page, which is right here on this page where you're seeing it. You will be able to find various types of support, including reference guides and job aids and videos and links to direct support. So grant award modifications. GAMs, as they're now called. GAMs are used to request approval for modifications to your OVC award. There are three types of GAMs in Just Grants. Basically, a project period extension GAM, programmatic GAMs, and financial GAMs. Project period extension GAMs are used to extend the length of the funded award. Tribal Victim Service Set-Aside grantees are eligible for one extension, a one-time extension to extend their project period for any time up to 60 months. So the most time you're allowed on your award is 60 months. And if your current project is not that long, you could extend it up to that length of time. Project period extensions are typically done in the last year of your award, a few months before the end date. Under the programmatic GAM, there are programmatic cost GAMs that could be submitted or change of scope GAMs that could be submitted. And there are a number of different types of situations where these might be needed. For example, if you are changing the scope or objectives of your project, if you're changing key staff on the project or adding a subaward or subcontract that was not previously approved, or altering programmatic activities, there's a number of reasons why GAMs may be needed. The budget modification GAM is used to modify or make changes to the approved budget. The reasons or the situations for requirements for a GAM is noted in the OJP financial guide. Generally, a budget modification GAM must be submitted if the proposed cumulative changes are greater than 10% of the total award amount. So you must submit a budget modification GAM if you're moving money from one category to another, and those changes equal or are greater than 10% of the total award amount. If you're adding line items to a budget category that was previously zero, so for example, if you did not have any money under contracts, but now you want to add funds there and develop a contract, you need to do a budget mod. And again, you would need a budget modification GAM if your indirect cost rate has increased or decreased from what was originally proposed. There's also sole source approval GAMs that would be submitted. And please be sure to discuss your GAM, your situation with your grant manager before you submit any grant adjustment modification, just to determine, to make sure that it's necessary and to make sure that you're selecting the right type of GAM for what you want to, for the change you want to make. It's important to note that the only person who can submit a GAM is the grant award administrator. I'm going to turn this over now to Lori.
Thank you so much, Mary. I am Lori Gardner, and I am one of the grants managers with the Tribal Division at OVC. And the next few slides, we're going to be talking about how OVC conducts programmatic grant monitoring. So OVC actively monitors the status and progress of each award. The purpose of monitoring is to assess and ensure compliance with the regulation, terms, and conditions of the award, to examine programmatic progress, to validate information that has been reported through progress reports, performance measurement tools, and financial reports, and to provide technical assistance when it's needed. So monitoring can happen in a lot of different ways. It can include phone call discussions, emails, participating in meetings and events, reviewing progress and financial reports, and then also conducting site visits. The in-depth monitoring consists of on-site, in-person visits, or enhanced programmatic desk reviews, or as we call them, EPDRs. And this is the way we've really been conducting all of the monitoring for the last 2 years. So before any in-depth monitoring, whether it's on-site or an EPDR, you'll receive a letter from your grant manager outlining the date or dates for the monitoring and also any materials that are needed in advance of the monitoring. So some of the types of items that are reviewed during the monitoring process include the policies and procedures, and this would be most likely both your tribe's policies and procedures as well as the programmatic policies and procedures. A sample of financial transactions from the award. If you have a sub-award in your award, also the policies and procedures for that sub-award will likely be requested. Validation of programmatic data, which can include verifying program activities like services that are being provided or trainings that are being conducted. And then also ensuring compliance with the award conditions, such as the financial management training that we talked about earlier today. Once your monitoring visit is complete, your grant manager may follow up with you all with additional items or documents that are needed. Then your OVC grant manager will complete the review of the materials from the visit and prepare a report of the visit. Finally, you can expect a letter from OVC highlighting any issues that might need to be resolved, usually within 45 days of the monitoring visit. The letter is also going to provide details for the time frame in which you'll need to address any issues that have arisen, and as well as provide any relevant resources that might help you in the process of addressing any of those issues. And speaking of resources to help you address those issues, the Office for Victims of Crime provides several training and technical assistance resources to support tribal communities in providing comprehensive and culturally appropriate services to crime victims, their families, and the community. OVC provides 2 different types of TTA at no cost to grantees. The first type is programmatic TTA, and that's to help build grantee capacity to develop and implement their grant-funded projects. The second type of TTA is financial, and that's to help grantees build capacity to administer the federal grant funds. So this slide lists some of the types of training and technical assistance that can be provided, which include helping with community needs assessment, customized training, assisting with community education efforts, and helping with program evaluation. In terms of how to access TTA, please contact your OVC grant manager first in order to access the services through the TTA providers. And that's because there may be instances where the grant manager will actually be the person providing the technical assistance. The OVC funds 2 TTA providers to deliver the programmatic TTA to tribal grantees. The National Criminal Justice Training Center of Fox Valley Technical College and Unified Solutions are the 2 programmatic training and technical assistance providers. And I believe they just dropped their websites in the chat for you all. So each of these providers has a process on how requests for assistance are processed. They have already been reaching out to you all and having phone calls to share resources and additional information. So it's likely you have already talked with them at this point. Please do remember that TTA providers can't provide approvals for things like reports and GAMs. However, they can provide guidance and assistance as you are submitting those items. And if you have specific training needs, please be sure to contact your OVC grant manager, who will then work with the TTA provider to begin the process of identifying the correct subject matter experts. The TTA providers do provide culturally specific and personalized services to OVC tribal grantees located in the lower 48 and Alaska. Again, they provide a wide range of assistant types, such as help with strategic planning, program development, development of policies and procedures, such as confidentiality policy that Mary was talking about earlier, and tribal code assistance. Services also include communicating with grantees about important notices from OVC, available resources, and upcoming TTA opportunities. Also, they provide specialized training opportunities in a variety of formats, including e-learning, in-person methods, and also opportunities for grantees to engage in peer-to-peer mentoring, which I know has been really helpful for grantees to learn from one another. OVC's Coordinated Tribal Assistance Solicitation, or CTAS, and the Tribal Victim Services Set-Aside grantees have all been assigned to work with one of the 2 TTA providers mentioned. And if you need to know which provider is assigned to you, please contact your OVC grant manager. And then also the TTA provider assignments are listed in a handout that will be provided to you all at the end of today's session. The Tribal Financial Management Center, or TFMC, provides grantees with customized technical assistance to support grantees with the financial aspects of their award. TFMC can provide a variety of financial assistance, including help with developing your budget for your FY22 application, budget modifications and revisions for your current award. They also have a lot of publications and webinars on topics related to the fiscal side of things on their website. And TFMC is the financial TTA providers for all of the set-aside awards. OVC also offers a variety of other training and technical assistance opportunities to address specific needs related to serving victims of human trafficking and Alaska tribal grantees. These programs are highlighted on the screen, or their logos are. The Human Trafficking Capacity Building Center assists tribal programs with building their capacity to aid victims of human trafficking. The center can help grantees to identify training and other resources to build staff knowledge about human trafficking. They can also help develop screening tools and assist tribal communities with creating a strategic plan to identify and serve victims of human trafficking. In partnership with tribes within the Anchorage Service Unit and nonprofit partners, the Alaska Native Justice Center offers victim-centered TTA services free of charge to existing and emergent Alaska tribal justice systems. And the Alaska Native Women's Resource Center, they are dedicated to strengthening tribal government's responses to domestic and sexual violence. This resource center provides targeted technical assistance to develop and implement culturally tailored training for remote Alaska Native villages. For additional information about these TTA providers, please contact your OVC grant manager. We also wanted to share one free resource that you may not be aware of, and that's the Victim Assistance Training Online, or VAT as we call it. This is a foundational web-based victim assistance training program that offers victim service providers and allied professionals the opportunity to acquire essential skills and knowledge that they need to more effectively assist victims of crime. That online is updated every 2 years. It currently has 4 sections, which include basics, core competencies and skills, crimes, and specific considerations for providing victim services. The intended audience is new victim service providers with less than 3 years of experience, but the training can also serve as a refresher course for more experienced victim service providers. Each of the modules takes anywhere between 30 to 90 minutes to complete, and learners can complete all of the modules at once, or they can also complete specific modules depending on their specific learning needs. And I believe we have a poll question here, so I'm going to turn it over to Kevin for a moment.
Yes, we have our final question of the day, and the question is, what type of TTA is most helpful for your program? We have group TTA such as webinars, customized or individual TTA, resource documents is the last answer there. Okay, it looks like a majority of you are, what would be most helpful to you all would be customized or individual TTA, followed by group TTA webinars, and then resource documents coming in last. So with that, we will go ahead and return back to our presentation. Thank you for those.
Thanks so much, Kevin. On this slide, you're going to find some important resources to keep in mind. OVC has created a web page that offers additional background information about the tribal program set aside. It also includes informational paper that OVC prepared to brief tribal leaders about the set aside during a series of phone consultations that OVC conducted. The next resource I wanted to highlight is the OJP Grants Resources Guide, which I would definitely bookmark. This is a very important one. From this page, you can find most of the resources that you'll need to manage your award. And again, you're encouraged to familiarize yourself with the DOJ Grants Financial Guide mentioned earlier in the webinar. from this link, you can actually click through the financial guide section, but you can also download it as a PDF, which I've found to be really helpful. That way you can, if you're looking for a specific thing, you can just do a word search in the document and find it really easily. And then also, if you need to take the grants and financial management training, the link is listed here for you. And you can follow OVC on various social media platforms. Follow OVC on Facebook and Twitter for information about events and other news. And recordings of some of the events and webinars can also be accessed on YouTube. Important to note, starting in FY22, OVC will allow grantees to spend TVSSA funds to provide assistance to families of missing and murdered individuals and to generate awareness of MMIP cases. There's going to be a lot more information about this in a webinar tomorrow, which is May 4th from 1 to 2 p.m. There is still time to register, so please go to the link. I think we'll have it posted in the chat, and the link is in the handout that you'll receive from the PowerPoint. OVC is very pleased to announce the 17th National Indian Nations Justice for Victims of Crime Conference is scheduled for December 6th through the 9th on the Agua Caliente Band of Indians Reservation in California. This conference focuses on the unique needs of American Indian and Alaska Native crime victims and provides training for victim service providers and various allied professionals, all at the tribal, federal, state, and local level. So I know this has been a great deal of information today, and I know a lot of it is not the most exciting information, so we appreciate you sticking with us. Hopefully it has all been really helpful information. Some key takeaways from today's webinar. Please take the time to go into Just Grants and review those award conditions. Even if you're not a new grantee, it's really important to review your award conditions as they might change a little bit from year to year. Please make sure to reach out to your grant manager about any of the withholdings that you see on your award. Most likely your grant manager has already reached out to you about them, but just in case they have not, please be sure to reach out to them. Make sure that the grant award administrator and the financial manager have taken that financial management training. And if you're not already familiar with the performance measurement reporting or just need a refresher, please make sure to attend the PMT webinar on June 8th. And you can find information about the registration process for that webinar on the OVC events webpage. Make sure to understand those reporting requirements, both the programmatic and the financial. And always remember that training and technical assistance is available to you for free, and to just reach out to your grants manager to learn more about TTA, or if you need anything else. We are truly here to support you all in this very important work that you all do for crime victims in your communities. And with that, I believe we are going to take some time for questions.
Thank you, Lori. This is Jessica. We have a few questions that came in through the chat that Kimberly and I were going through. So I'll read a couple of them out loud. And panelists and Kimberly, please feel free to chime in if you would like to add more. So the first question relates to the DOJ financial management training and the frequency that it needs to be taken. As Mary mentioned, the grants financial management training must be completed by the grant award administrator and the financial manager that is listed in Just Grants. And this training must be completed every 3 years, and a copy of your certificate must be uploaded to Just Grants under entity documents, or you can email it to your OVC grant manager. And if there's a change in your grant award administrator or your financial manager, so say those individuals left, the person that is replacing them has 120 days to complete the training and to submit that certificate to OVC. And as a reminder, this is a special condition on the award, and if your entity fails to comply program funds can be withheld, and we don't want that. So please make sure that you complete your training and submit your certificate. The next question relates to training. Are there any training requirements under this solicitation? As Kimberly mentioned in the chat, there are no travel requirements under the TVSA 21 solicitation. However, applicants are encouraged to budget funding for a minimum of 2 key personnel to travel to at least one DOJ-sponsored training. And Lori mentioned one of those, which is the DOJ Indian Nations conference that is going to be held in November. I'm sorry, Indian Nations conference is going to be held in December at the Agua Caliente Conference Center. The next question, does the 2020 financial guide apply to does the updated financial guide apply to the 2021 TVSA grantees? Yes. The special condition on your award requires you to follow the most current edition of the DOJ financial guide.
So Jessica, there's another question that's come in as you were talking, and we have someone who says that they took the financial training in 2019, so I will need to take it this year, correct? If you completed the training on or after January 1, 2019, and you are a grant award administrator or a financial manager for an FY21 set-aside award, then yes, you are in compliance for your FY21 award. If you know that you are planning to apply for an FY22 award, then yes, you should take the training again this year so that you'll be in compliance should your tribe or organization receive an FY22 award from us.
Thank you for that, Kimberly. And if there are any other questions about the grants financial management training, please let us know. The next question that we have is about the number of TDSA awards that you can hold at one time. So how many is that? So entities may hold more than one TDSA award to provide services to victims of crime. And if there is an overlap in performance period, example, you have 2 concurrent TDSA awards, we ask you that you please make sure that there is no duplication between those awards. And if you have any questions or concerned about overlap of costs, we recommend that you have a conversation with your OVC grant manager. You're also encouraged to reach out to TFNC. And TFNC, again, is your go-to provider for any financial related questions. They're a wonderful resource, and you can set up a time to talk with them, and perhaps even your OVC grant manager on the same line.
There's another question that's come in. Where can I find the training for financial managers? I also have a question. Does it need to be a financial manager, or can it be an accountant, fiscal monitor? So the link for the financial management training, I believe, is embedded in one of the slides. If you haven't found that or need assistance with finding it, let us know and we can drop it in the chat again. In terms of who needs to complete the training, I think Jessica just went over this a couple of minutes ago, but it's the grant award administrator and any and every person who is designated as a financial manager and just grants. Those are the individuals who must demonstrate compliance with that training requirement. There are other individuals within your organization who may have some role to play in administering your award who might benefit from the training, and they can certainly register to take it. But again, in terms of compliance, we are just monitoring for those individuals who are identified as the grant award administrator and anyone who is identified as a financial manager for the award and just grants. It's very important that you keep that information up to date so that we are able to monitor your compliance and make sure that everything is as it should be. So we have another request to drop the link for the training in the chat. Let me see if that's happened. We can do that. There's also a question, will the questions asked be available also? So we do have the ability to generate a Q&A report. We can share that or post it on our website. I think we just need to talk about what's the best way to get that information to everyone.
I think we also received a couple of questions about reporting. One of them is, my award period started on January 1st, but my budget hasn't been cleared. If I do not have access to funds, am I still required to report? The answer is yes. Reporting starts when your performance period begins. So regardless if you have access to your program's funds or you're working on your budget, you are required to adhere to the reporting requirements. And this means that you must report into the performance measurement tool, also known as the PMT, and the federal financial report that is located in Just Grants. Kimberly, do you have anything to add about reporting? Because I know we got a couple of questions about it.
Was there something specific that someone wanted to know about reporting that we haven't gone over thus far? Because again, your reporting obligations start when your award period starts. And I know that we have some folks on who have an award period that started on October 1, and some who have an award period that started on January 1st. So if you had an award period that started on October 1, you did have a report, a semi-annual program progress report that was due in Just Grants on January 30th. If you have not submitted that, please go ahead and submit it. Again, if you have not engaged in any activities since October 1, you would just report zeros for all of your performance measurement data and just state that in the narrative prompt section. So when your reporting obligation starts, it's contingent upon when your award period started. And of course, your financial status reports are also contingent upon start of your award period. So those are quarterly, just like the PMT reports are quarterly, and your program progress reports are semi-annual.
So we have about 2 minutes left before the end of the webinar. As Kimberly mentioned, we can pull a report of the questions and send that out to all the participants after the call. And any questions that we did not get to, we can answer those as well.
And I just wanted to make a quick addition, or just kind of a reminder to everybody here. If you are not familiar or maybe struggling with the Just Grants reporting part of it, I do know that the link that was posted earlier, I believe on slide 40, is a great resource in terms of the videos that they have posted. Many of them are step-by-step videos on how to access and navigate the Just Grant system. So definitely take a look at that. And with that, that concludes our webinar for today. I want to thank Lori, Bonnie, Mary, and Jessica, and the rest of the team from OVC. And thank you to our attendees for joining us today. We hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks again.